everyone, it's Kerry back with you today. I was invited by Mandy, who is part of the Junk Journal Ideas and Inspiration group, along with Justine. The ladies over there have put together a collaboration called May You Be Inspired By, and they're celebrating 1 year of their Facebook group. They have asked some junk journalists to come on and share how they got into junk journaling and also perhaps some tips or tricks or ideas or things that we wish we had known when we first started out on our journal adventure. So how did I get into junk journaling? Well, I was already quite heavily into crafting, mostly art journaling like these things here. Um, so I'll tell you a little bit about how I got into crafting rather than just junk journaling. But my mum has been into craft for ever and ever and ever, and anyone who's followed our channel knows that Which Craft Do You Do actually comprises of myself, my sister and my mum. And my mum would come up here to Melbourne where I live to go to the craft fairs, and she'd always try and get me to go along to these craft fairs with lots of vendors. And it just wasn't my thing. I wasn't into it at all. And she'd come home and she'd tip out all her bags of goodies onto the bed and she'd be like, oh, look at this and look at that. And I'd be like, yep, so some paint or whatever she'd bought. Just didn't inspire me in any way, shape or form. And then on one of her other trips, she came up and she had this card that had been created by using some embossed stamped images and some coloured ink. And I don't know for what reason, but this card just got me and I wanted to make one. So Mum sort of slapped her hands together and she's like, right, and took me to a craft store and we bought some very basic supplies, a couple of stamps, a couple of ink colours, an embossing powder and a heat tool. And we came home and we made that card, and then from there it just progressed. I actually recently just told this story on our channel when Mum was up here for a visit. From then I wanted to make all the things and do all the things and experience everything that craft had to offer, and I had ordered some wooden laser cut gears from England because I couldn't find any in Australia at the time, and the order never came, and I thought, well, I'll just buy a laser and do it myself. So I didn't have the money for a laser. I asked Mum if I could borrow some money off her, and she agreed as long as I used the laser to earn the money to pay her back, which I did. I started laser cutting, and then I had, crafty friends would say, could you make me this? Can you cut me one of those? Could you do this? And then sort of word spread and I was getting people who I didn't know order from me, and then we opened a shop, and then, it's just grown from that. So crafting in general has changed my life completely. I was working in a job that I didn't particularly like anymore. I'd done it for 20 odd years and I had a young family at home. So having my own craft business at home, doing something I absolutely loved, was a total, complete game changer. And I've not looked back, and, I just love it, every minute of it. So, getting into crafting and then art journaling, I did a lot of canvases and things like that with mixed media. Then I started art journaling in books. So it wasn't a huge leap for me to start junk journaling, making my own books. The one thing that I found with my art journaling was, I would start a page and I would have to finish the page. I couldn't just leave it and work on something else. I wanted to complete it and before I could move on. And I found with junk journaling, I don't have that same need to completely finish the project before I can move on and do something else. And that's just such a freeing feeling, especially if you are busy or you've only got, a few minutes to craft, but you really want to have a go at making something. You could just make a tag, or you could make a couple of pockets, or, decorate an envelope, or whatever your time will let you do. That's a very freeing thing with junk journaling. So anyway, that's how I got to where I am today. And some things or ideas that I wish that I had known when I first started. Probably the most prominent one is when you have an idea, it can hit you in the middle of the night. You might have a dream about it. You might just wake up thinking about it. You could be in the supermarket, wherever. Write that idea down, or use your phone to take a message, or write a note or something, because you can guarantee that by the time you get home and you've done whatever else it is you have to do, you walk into your craft space and you will have completely forgotten that idea. And, I find that super frustrating. So having something to write down my ideas on, or, my phone or whatever, that would be my first tip. The other thing that I like to have now, which I didn't have when I first started, is this is an ideas book now. It's a completely blank book because the book in itself was an idea. And for me personally, I didn't want to be distracted by other things on the page. I just wanted to have the ideas so that when I turn a page, I know, oh, that's right, I was thinking of this or I was thinking of that or whatever. And the other thing that I've started doing recently is this one is glued in, but I don't glue my things in here anymore. I just clip them in so that I can take them out, and examine them and see what I actually did, because once you start making a lot of things, it's quite easy to forget your own method about how you created something. So having one that you can pick up and touch and pull apart to see how you made it has been useful for me. So I think an ideas book is something really great, like a reference to come back, especially if you've lost your mojo and you don't really know what you want to do. Having an ideas book is something you can refer to, but it's a bit like a catalogue of things that you've made before, just to help you remember. And also take photos of the things that you make, especially if you sell them or gift them to other people, because when you have a collection, like when you start making a lot of things, there's no way you can remember everything you've ever made. And it's really nice to have that to look back on, also as a reminder of what you made, but also to inspire you. Another tip that I would strongly recommend is just have a go. If you see something and you think, oh, that looks really cool and I'd like to have a go, don't be intimidated by what you think that person has done. Just mimic it the best that you can in your own way. This will also help you come up with your own style and also your own method for making things. So whilst it's really helpful to watch tutorials and see step by step how someone has made something, you quite often find that if you see a picture and you go, I really like that, and you try and emulate it yourself, you'll come up with your own methods and quite often even have your own happy accidents in the process, which will teach you more than if you just step by step through a tutorial. Tutorials, I think, are still very valuable. I follow them all the time. I make them on my channel. But there's nothing quite so rewarding as just getting in and having a go at making something yourself and really loving the outcome. I think it ingrains in you a little bit more too, because it's your own method, how you've done it. So you're not having to rely on remembering somebody else's steps because you've created your own steps, if that makes sense. So you will find inspiration anywhere and everywhere. Social media is a very strong presence in most people's lives these days. Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook, it goes on and on. And you can find so much inspiration out there. You can use that inspiration to help move you through your journey and inspire you to create different things. But if you feel confident enough to do it, I encourage you to share your own work as well. Not only will you feel great when other people comment and say, oh, that's really good, or ask you questions, how did you do that? But your pictures might inspire somebody else to pick up this craft and be part of this joyful community where there's so much support. Some of my best friends are part of this community, and I wouldn't have met them if I hadn't have, been brave enough to put myself out there in the beginning. Once you do start sharing your work on social media, I think it's really important to try and keep your branding, if that makes sense. What I mean by branding is like your name. So if you call yourself Witchcraft Do You Do, so that's myself, my mum and my sister, then wherever you look for Witchcraft Do You Do, you'll find us under that name on all of those platforms. It makes it easier for people to be able to follow you if they want to keep up with your work and see what you're creating. It also makes it easier for you to remember who you are on all the different social media things if you don't have to remember different names. So apart from that, just enjoy yourself. Let it be your own time. There is no right and wrong, and just, have fun with the process. I think that's about it for today. I just want to thank Mandy for inviting me to be part of the collaboration. I will leave links in the description box below to Mandy and Justine's Facebook group and also a playlist for all of the other participants to the collaboration. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll see you again next time. Bye.